There's always another level. So rejoice in your growth. Rejoice in your challenges. Rejoice in the hardships that you face, because it is through that you achieve your greatness.
And here we are. Welcome back. Good to see you, G. Russell Reynolds.
Dr. Michael Diamond. Doctor.
I am finally back in my home and office, not doing podcasts on the Pacific Ocean of Hawaii. So, although that was beautiful,
was not a bad place to be doing a podcast.
Not a bad place to be doing a podcast. Hopefully that image comes out from behind me, but we shall see. And I'm super excited about today.
Tell me.
So this is a really important topic, and we're going to be, what we have found is so many men are just lost, right? And no one gave them the playbook and don't have the model for what it means to be a man, what it means to be an awakened man. And one of the biggest frameworks we use in Ignite is the hero's journey. And we'll get into that today and how it applies to the modern day awakened man, because it is a tried and true, proven framework for how to navigate life. And what we've learned, and even just a call we had right before this one with the man, it's like when we know where we're at, we're better able to navigate it. And again, so many men are just wandering around lost, thinking they're doing the right thing, expending a lot of energy, but not actually having progress in their life. And the hero's journey provides a lot of focus and a lot of direction for how to navigate the different parts of the journey.
Here, I'll play the role. The hero's journey. What's that, Michael?
I was going to ask you. Okay, well, I'll share my piece on it, and you can share your piece on
Go
it.
ahead.
I remember a meeting that you and I had way before Ignite, and we were getting together, and you brought, I don't know if you remember this, but you brought 3 books.
I do.
And you were gifting me a book, and you said, choose one. And one of them was The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. And that's the one I said I wanted. I think because I had the other 2 books that you brought.
There you go.
Easy choice. But that was profound because I didn't have that book. I was aware of The Hero's Journey, aware of Joseph Campbell. I'd done a little bit of my research or whatever and study on that. But that was a pivotal moment because that helped me really dive deep, because it's a pretty thick book, to be honest.
Right.
And so Joseph Campbell, he was a mythologist. Mostly, I think he wrote the book in the 40s, right? 1941, maybe.
I believe so.
Yeah. And he was a teacher. He was a professor. And
historian.
Yeah. Many things. And, he has the famous quote, "Follow your bliss." That's Joseph Campbell, if those of you out there that have heard that quote before. And what he describes as the hero's journey is the monomyth. It's the story as humans, but we're talking about men, that we all share, that we all go through. And whether it's not bound by time or culture, and every, he's a mythologist. So every ancient culture, every culture he studied shared the same story. And then he put it together and said, these are the steps. And this is what you go through as a human in this world. And the more you understand that, the more you can navigate life and the challenges that come up, because there's expectancy there. So I'll start with that.
Yeah. Monomyth, you touched on it. It's what he meant by monomyth is regardless of culture, continent, or language, even cultures that were completely disconnected, there's no way they could have had contact with each other.
Right. No email back in those days.
Yeah. There's no cell phones, no emails, no World Wide Web. They had the same story in their mythology. All the cultures had this one story, and it was the hero's journey. And it's particular to men. It's embedded in our DNA, but the women could be on their own hero's journey as well. But for men especially, the realization is that we are all the heroes of our own movies.
Right.
You're all on your own journey. And you may think, I'm just a janitor. How could I be a hero? You're still on your hero's journey. Doesn't matter what your career is. You are still on your hero's journey. This is our path of self-discovery and empowerment and eventual contribution to the whole.
Right.
And, as I have said before, Michael likes to quote it, if you think about the idea that you're the hero of your own movie, if you were sitting on the couch watching the movie of your life on the television, would you be on the edge of your seat with excitement, or would you change the channel because you're bored? Because the story sucks. And if the answer is the latter rather than the former, you may want to take a look at that.
Right.
And there's specific stages in this hero's journey which we'll cover, and each stage you'll recognize elements of your life. And what's beautiful about the hero's journey too is when you recognize where you're at on that journey, then it, in my perspective, helps to stop taking things so personally and get out of the why me mindset and get back into the try me mindset. There may be an MF right behind try me, but it's like, let's go, because you recognize like, oh, that's this character on the hero's journey. My boss isn't just an asshole. He's not just messing with me, to keep me down. What that may be his intention, but it doesn't matter because he's playing a role, and it signifies that I'm at that next level of my life. This is awesome. Changes your perspective completely. So
I love when you say we stop taking things so personally, because what I wanted to share is it takes the personality out of it, right? And again, if we're sharing the same monomyth or same story or journey with all other humans that have ever existed, it's not about you. Right. And I just want to expand out for a moment, because one, if the word hero is triggering for you men out there for some reason, or you don't know how to relate to that, I'm just going to throw this out. This is really just the journey of life. He calls it the hero's journey, but you are the hero of your life. But if that word for some reason,
if the word hero is triggering you, why are you listening to this podcast? Like, come on,
try to be inclusive here, Russell. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Go cry in your bowl of soy puffs. Jesus.
Well, I think sometimes we can liken the hero to like, I'm running in a burning building and I have to save people and this and that. And it's like, it can be misconstrued is kind of the point I was making. But you are the hero of your life. You are showing up in that way. And this is the hero's journey. So we're not going to shy away from that word. But I did want to throw that out there, because some of you men may have a hard time relating to that. This is really just a framework for the journey of your life. And by the way, this is a super thick topic. No way we're going to get through all of this in 40 minutes on a podcast. I'm sure we'll be revisiting aspects of this throughout this podcast journey, just to say.
And I'm just going to add to that, since you brought it up, if you're triggered by the word hero, or you think, oh, I'm no hero, then that's a bunch of not good enough bullshit that you've taken as your belief system. But the DNA of the hero is embedded in every single one of us. And where Michael said, like, this is the monomyth throughout humanity, it's not about you. What is about you is what you do with it. Your potential is your gift. What you do with it, it's like, what is it? Our potential is God's gift to us. What we do with it is our gift to God, right? So, or your gift to the world. Right. So are you going to activate, if you have the DNA of a hero in you, are you going to be content with average, with mundane, with not good enough? Yeah. That's on you. And that's a sad day.
I think that's a good place to start, because I think maybe why some men might have a hard time relating to this is because the two big aspects of the hero's journey is, one, there's the ordinary world, and then there's the special world, right? We'll get into that in a moment. But how the hero's journey begins is you're just an ordinary, you're Neo working in an office cubicle, right? And living the Groundhog's Day life, and nothing is exciting. So you may not feel like a hero because you're living a very ordinary life. So the point in my perspective of the hero's journey, is to go from the ordinary to the extraordinary, because by the time you go through the cycle of this and you're returning with the elixir, which is the final stage, bringing that elixir, we'll get there. I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
By the time you do that, you are the hero bringing that elixir back home. So it may not resonate now because you're not on the journey yet, or you don't have the framework, the language or whatever for that journey. But trust us, you will be the hero.
And most blockbuster movies are all based on the hero's journey.
Yeah.
The Matrix, right? Neo worked in a cubicle, but he was always meant for more. Star Wars, Luke was trapped on the desert planet Tatooine working as a farmhand for his uncle, but knew he was meant for more. The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy hated Kansas. Right? Yep. Although little segue. One of my favorite T-shirts I saw had a letter, like it was a handwritten letter on the front, and it said, "Dear Auntie M, hate you, hate Kansas, taking the dog, love Dorothy." And then on the back of the shirt, it had another letter said, "Dear Dorothy, hate you, hate Oz, taking the slippers, love Toto."
That's great.
It's pretty funny.
I love that.
But I mean, one of the
most famous quotes of that movie, right, is "We're not in Kansas anymore," right? And that's
you're
the
not
purpose.
In the ordinary world anymore.
Exactly. Go ahead. I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
No, it's all right. It's all these blockbuster movies are based on the hero's journey. So let's think about this. If you're trapped in Groundhog's Day, which we've talked about this being one of the 5 pains of men. If you're trapped in Groundhog's Day and you're hating your life and it's just not fulfilling and you know you're meant for more, but you don't know what it is, you don't know how to get to it. Good. That's the beginning of the journey. And if the shit hits the fan, so to speak, if that ordinary world starts collapsing around you, if you lose your job or you lose your car or you lose your home, good. It has to.
Pattern interrupt.
It has to. For you to step into your fullest potential as the hero's journey. Don't bemoan the loss of the ordinary world. Celebrate what's next. Right? I learned a long time ago that when things are going horribly bad or seemingly, keyword seemingly wrong, I say, God, I don't understand, but thank you. Thank you. Right. I know there's a blessing in this for me. And by affirming it, I align with it. Thank you.
Yep.
Right? This is all going to shit from my limited perspective, but I know there's a greater perspective and this is all happening for me, not to me. Thank you. Right? So that's the acceptance of the call to adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know that just rolls off your tongue, by the way, of like, this is happening for me, but there's probably a lot of men out there that are still blaming their circumstance, still suffering, thinking that this is happening to them. And, it's a big paradigm shift, right, to make.
Yeah.
But you're listening to this podcast, so something tells us that you're seeking more for sure.
And why me or try me? Your choice.
Yeah.
Your choice.
Yeah.
Nobody ever achieved greatness from why me.
So
nobody ever achieved greatness from a victim mindset.
100%. I mean, the wound becomes the gift, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is all
Every
about.
Master was born from a disaster. Your mess becomes your message. All these corny quotes, all these corny quotes, they point to the same thing, the same truth.
Right. Absolutely. Well, let's get into it. The hero's journey, I think you're about to start with it too, is it begins with the call to adventure and the calling to something more, where you assess your life and realize there's something more for me here. And there's a calling. There's with Neo, it was a phone call, right? With Luke, it was his parents dying and the farm getting burned up, right? Where there's
his aunt and uncle. Yeah.
Oh, aunt and uncle. Sorry.
Yeah.
But there's
there's a tornado.
Right. There's a tornado. Exactly. Yeah. So there's a significant moment that happens in your life, a calling. And like you just said, usually as a result of some challenge, disaster, problem that forces you to have to be like, oh, okay, something's calling me to more. So it begins with the call to adventure.
And often it's tumultuous. Often it's terrible. Look at Braveheart. William Wallace had his wife's throat cut. Like that was his call to adventure, because he had to step into the fullness of the leader who he was. But he just wanted an ordinary life, just wanted to be a farmer, wanted to be small and ordinary. No, universe had more in store for him. And unfortunately, the way it happened, and a lot of times from misfortune, is born our greatness.
Yeah. And I just want to say before we get too much further along the path of the hero's journey is that I know for me, like in my life, especially growing up in a very typical New York suburban life, like I was craving adventure. I was craving something different. Yeah. And I think a lot of us out there can relate to that, where it's like, we just want more. Like we get one life to live, depending on your beliefs. And it's like, okay, like what am I going to do with this? Like, and it's not just going to be handed to you, right? So there is this like excitement of like there's something more out there, and I'm going to see what it's about, which ironically leads to the second part of the hero's journey, which is that refusal of the call, right?
Yeah,
which is a big one.
Yeah, it's almost inevitable that we refuse the call, and it's the only reason we would refuse the call is fear and doubt and not good enough, right? Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm not worthy. Blah 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 blah. So we refuse the call. And comfort is a drug, right? In the ordinary world, it's comfortable.
Right.
Like sitting on the couch, eating chips and drinking beer or soda. There's nothing fulfilling about it. In fact, it's mind numbing and body numbing, but it's comfortable.
Right.
Oh, that's dangerous. That's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Comfort. Somebody said to me once, the feeling of comfort is the feeling of death. Ooh.
Just to add to our corny quotes here, growth occurs outside the comfort zone, right? We've heard
that's just
Tony Robbins say it 1,000 times, right? It's 1,000,000 times at this point, probably. But growth occurs outside that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
here's my perspective on the refusal of the call, because the hero's journey is not a one and done, right? You don't get one hero's journey in your life. It's kind of like the OODA loop, right? It's a loop. You'll have several hero's journeys in your life. And I say this from experience, that the opportunity to jump on board that ship that's going to take you to the land of adventures is only there for a minute. If your refusal of the call is accepted, God help you, because you will have a miserable, unfulfilling, coulda, shoulda, woulda existence until the ship comes around again. I'm speaking this from experience.
Yeah.
God help you if somebody once said, if you keep arguing for your limitations, I'll let you have them. If your refusal of the call is accepted, if you actually don't get on the boat, if you actually don't reach out for that trapeze, think about what the alternative is. More of the same. Stay in the cubicle. Stay in the comfort zone. And you'll know, because this is the thing. Once you've had the call to adventure, you can't unknow.
Right.
That hero's journey was meant for you. You can't unknow that land of adventure and that greater potential exists for you.
Well, you'll
have to sit there in the prison of mediocrity until the opportunity comes around again. Don't let that happen. Trust me. Don't let that happen.
Well, you only get so many chances. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You only get so many go-rounds. I always like to give the visual of like the back of a watch. If you ever take the back of a watch off, like the old school analog watches, and you see all the different gears in there, some small, some big, right? And the biggest gear is the hero's journey of your entire life. And then the smaller gears are different moments or different times in your life, different smaller hero's journey. Like I just went on a 3-week trip, right? And got back. And that trip in and of itself was a hero's journey. Shit, the airplane flight out there was its own hero's journey, right? It's just getting somewhere, right? So we have these not little, but smaller hero's journeys within the larger context of our life hero's journey. But that biggest one that we're speaking to is the journey of you truly becoming the hero of your life, living that adventure, and ultimately, as we'll get to, bringing that elixir home. Right? There is, this ties back to all the times that we've talked about men having purpose, men having mission, and knowing that they're here for more They're here to
Yeah.
contribute more. And ultimately, it is what we contribute. I know you referenced Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, and it's like the 2 highest needs are growth and contribution. Well, the hero's journey is definitely about growth. That's for sure.
Yep.
And then what you bring to the world as a result of that is your contribution.
Yep.
So these are the needs of the soul. This is not of the mind. This is the journey you're going to take. That is probably the most important journey you'll ever go on.
Yeah. And as long as we're, being generous with the cliche quotes we've heard from others, the definition of hell is meeting the person you could have become.
Right.
Ouch.
Right.
Right. And again, your life is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift to God and to yourself and to humanity and to your loved ones and to your family. Like, the greatest sin I could possibly think of is dying with my potential still locked inside of me, unfulfilled, untapped, unused. What a shame. What a shame. So, answer the call.
Yeah.
And luckily, we often have people that will help us do that.
Next step.
Dun, dun, dun.
Meeting
like
the
that?
mentor.
You like that transition?
That was great. That was a beautiful segue. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, meeting the mentor. Such an important part because they're the ones that are the visionaries. They're the ones that see our potential and help call it forward when we don't see it ourselves. I mean, this is in essence what we do with the men in Ignite the King. I mean, just getting off the last call with the man where it's like, we're able to say, hey, this is where you're at. This is what's going on. You're exactly where you need to be. But he was spun in his own head about what was going on in his life, his business, his relationship, and just kind of thinking he's on this lone island and didn't have any of the answers. It's like, no, this is where you're at.
Right.
Oh, perspective.
Yeah.
That's what this whole thing brings in. But meeting the mentor is that guide, the shaman, the guru, the one that's been there before 1,000 times and is able to bring that to you and say, trust the path, keep going. Whether it's a coach you've had in sports, whether it's a teacher you had in school, whether it was a mentor in your business, another coach, anything like
Morpheus to Neo, Ben Kenobi to Luke Skywalker, Mickey to Rocky. Like, these are all the mentors.
Good. I'm glad we're bringing in Rocky here. We got to get him in here.
You got to get we agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's these are all, and by the way, men, I don't think in any of those films, any of these stories, did the mentor greet the would-be hero, and it still would be because you haven't done anything yet. The mentor didn't greet the would-be hero with hugs and warm fuzzies. He challenged the shit out of him every single time.
Yep.
Because the would-be hero was still stuck in his ordinary life, in his ordinary expression, and playing small. Yep. The mentor has to challenge that. Challenge him to think beyond his limitations, to act and grow.
And I'm glad you said that because when we meet the mentor, we're still in that ordinary world. Right. We haven't crossed it, which is like my segue here. That's how we cross over into that special world, right? Into that. And I gave the example to the man on the last call. It's like walking to the edge of a forest and walking into that forest and going far enough in. By the time you turn around, you don't know where you entered from and there's no going back. Right. And that's such a, there's pivotal points in the hero's journey. And this is one of them where, okay, you got the calling, you've accepted that call, you've met the mentor, and now it's crossing over that threshold. Maybe it's quitting a job. Maybe it's investing in yourself. Whatever that thing that's going to cross you over from that ordinary world to that special world, where essentially there's no going back.
Right.
That's the essence of that part of the hero's journey.
By the way, this can also apply to relationships. How many men in Ignite the King have we seen that were in a toxic or unfulfilling relationship? They just knew it wasn't the right one. And when they finally had the courage to cut the cords and walk away from it, now they're about to be married because they met the queen of their dreams and the woman that they was everything they wanted in a relationship. More than one.
Scarily fast, actually.
Yeah, but it's just like nature abhors a vacuum. So when you clear that out of your life, boom. And that could be walking away from a job. It could be walking away from a relationship. It could be walking away from the chips and soda to, we've seen that as well. We've got, a guy who's doing his first men's physique competition. And,
right.
While he was always been a titan in business, in the realms of health and diet, he was a titan of excuses and, had not made that change. And when he did, boom, like a paragon of discipline, and his results show for it. So whatever the field is, again, we've got, work, finance, family, health, whatever it is for you, you've got to let go of the ordinary world. You've got to let go of the old. You've got to let go of settling for average in your life to really cross the threshold into your potential, into that hero's journey.
And to use some of the modern language, it's going all in. Right? I know sometimes some of the hero's journey, it's old, right? I mean, written in the 40s, 80 years ago, Russell. Crazy to think that. But it's going all in, and it's going all in on yourself. And this is again, it's a pivotal place because this is where, just to keep rolling on our quotes here. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So how many times have I, you, others in the world gotten the call, refused the call, accepted it, meant to mentor, and said, I'm not going to do that. And then went back and had the same thing. Again, you only get so many of those chances. But when you cross over that threshold into that special world, go all in on yourself and just say, I'm doing it. That's a significant moment. And it's an important thing to really embody, because that's a critical place that not a lot of people do. Everyone talks about transformation. Everyone talks about wanting things to be different, and maybe we'll get right up to that edge, but then don't do it. And I saw it, and I'm not going to give you all the stories, but in practice so many times, right? But then the ones that actually cross over and say, I'm going for it, lives are never the same,
right?
In a positive way, ultimately. Yeah.
So once you cross that threshold into, out of the ordinary world, then it's all smooth sailing and peaches and cream, right?
I wish it was.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
No, you don't. Tests, allies, and enemies. That's along the hero's journey. You're going to be tested.
Yeah.
How many have longed for, here's just one example. How many have longed for a beautiful, intimate, fulfilling relationship, and you find this woman, and it's like, oh my God, like this is so great. And then all of a sudden, all these other girls start coming out of the woodworks, or your ex or whatever. And it's like, do you really mean it?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Really? It's like, shit. Yeah, you're going to be tested.
You're forged in the fire, and this is also just to bring in the other framework, which we've talked about here and there in this podcast, the different archetypes. This is really where the warrior comes online. Mm-hmm. Because you're forged in the fire, you're tested, you're put to the test, you're seeing what you can handle, and this is where you learn new skill sets. This is where you are actually training, right? This is where the Rocky montage comes in, right? And he's chasing chickens and running up to the steps of the Liberty, whatever it is, and it's where you're made, right? This is where you put in the fucking work. Right.
Here's another movie quote for you. Karate do yes. Karate do no. Karate do guess so. Squish, just like grape.
Love that one.
Karate Kid, man. It's like, look, you're either in or you're out. If you're half in, I kind of wanna maybe squish. Yeah. You're gonna get smashed, right? Imagine going through. You want to be a Navy SEAL. So what's the first step? You got to go through basic training. And when roll call is like, I don't feel like it. Really? I'm pretty sure that your DI doesn't give a shit if you feel like it or not. You're in. Like, play all out. Like, go for it.
And we said test allies and enemies, and let's just talk about allies for a minute, because even though we're being tested and challenged and all those things come up, there are people and things along the way that are there to help us. Those are signs as well that we're on the right path, where I like to call it grace, where things show up exactly at the right time, the angel investor or the support, or things just realign to help you along the path. So it's not all challenge per se. There are allies, and we like to say, turn your adversaries into allies, right? Might also be a place to talk about the threshold guardian here.
Yeah.
If you want to bring that piece in.
Was definitely in where you're saying there are allies, there are also enemies. So one of the key qualities or attributes of the hero, and in Ignite we talk about of the king, is discernment. Discernment.
Do tell.
Because you'll have the seductress, whether that's in the form of a woman or the guy who's promising all this and a bag of chips with you for your business or your investment. Oh yeah, I can get all this, but there's something inside of you going,
right.
Pay attention to that feeling, right? Because there's enemies, and enemies are not always in your face, like clear and obvious, like I'm going to destroy you. Sometimes enemies are the ones with their arms around your shoulder. Well, one arm around your shoulder because the other one has a knife at your back.
Right.
Or so you have to be discerning, right, to be able to tell the difference, right? And it's not that you don't trust anybody, and it's not that you trust everybody. There's discernment, right?
Right.
And one of those characters that falls into that camp is the threshold guardian. If you look at the Sphinx in ancient Egypt, that was a threshold guardian. There's in many of these stories, there's a threshold guardian, and the threshold guardian is the guardian that blocks the way to the next level.
Right.
And usually there's some kind of a riddle that you have to solve or something. You can't face the threshold guardian head on,
right,
in combat, or you'll have your ass handed to you, right? It doesn't work that way. You have to be clever. You have to use discernment. You have to think of different ways. You have to use your heart and mind as well as your muscle. So the cool thing about the threshold guardian is recognizing their role. If you are encountering a threshold guardian, and maybe it's somebody at a higher level in your company that's trying to block you from that promotion, instead of getting all bent out of shape about them, go, oh, wow, that guy's a threshold guardian. Holy shit, that means I must be at the next level. I'm almost there. Awesome. Great. Now you can be excited about how you're going to navigate this relationship instead of resentful.
Right. Because at any one of these points in the journey, you could retreat and go back, right? It's not just at the refusal of the call. So being able to recognize those threshold guardians is like, oh, they're here to actually see how certain are you of this path, right? How true are you to this, what you're doing? Go ahead.
I just started laughing when you said at any point you could go back. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. I remember one of my exes. There was a path around a lake. This was in Dallas, and it was a jogging path. And she's like, I don't know if I could do the whole thing. I'm going to go for it. And she jogged the path, got about halfway there, and goes, I'm too tired. I can't make it, and go back. Not realizing it was exactly a mile. And it was she was exactly at the halfway point. Right. It was the exact same distance if she kept going as if she turned around, but she turned around thinking, I'm like, wow, you got to live with that one. So trying to go back, like, look, you're on the path, throttle forward, right? Yeah. What was it we just said to a man on the call? That Chuck Yeager, who was the pilot, first pilot to break the sound barrier, American Air Force test pilot, and he said, the moment before you break the sound barrier is when the cockpit shakes the most.
Yep.
That's when it feels like the plane's about to fall apart. And lesser pilots pulled up on the joystick. They pulled out. They went back because they didn't think they could do it. They didn't think. Chuck Yeager said no and throttled forward, leaned into the uncomfortable. And he broke the sound barrier and did what had never been done before. So which pilot are you?
Yep. And it's a perfect segue. They kind of go together, but there's the approach, right? Where now you've learned the skill sets, you've met the allies, the enemies. You've faced those things. You've been forged in the fire. And now there's a buildup where it leads to this ordeal, this place inside of you. Campbell refers to as the belly of the whale, right? Where the dark tunnel or cave that you need to go into to face your deepest fears, where you reach a point of almost death to come out the other side renewed, right? So there's an ordeal. And I know for our programs, so much of our immersions is getting men to face that ordeal, is to go into the deepest, darkest, hardest parts of themselves and face whatever's there. And you won't know what's there until you get there. There's no way to really know what's there before you get there.
To give it a movie reference for my Star Wars fans, Luke Skywalker on the swamp planet of Dagobah with Yoda when he had to step into the tree of darkness.
Right.
There's great evil, great darkness here. The dark side is strong here. And he had to walk into that and had no idea what he was going to be facing.
Absolutely. And, I don't want to make light at all of the ordeal because it's a dark, scary place.
Right.
It's
another attribute of the hero, courage, right? Discernment, courage. Courage is not
valor.
The lack of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yep. And it's, I know for me, it's the most transformational place that I've ever been because I'm still here. And those things that I thought were going to kill me, they didn't kill me. And funny how that works, huh? But this is also where I'll just say you need to be taken there by someone that knows what they're doing. This isn't a place to just try to navigate on your own. This is where, again, the mentor, all that, because this is where the deepest beliefs, deepest patterns that have been ingrained in you from day one of your life live. And frankly, whether it's through trauma or whatever, can be a scary fucking place. And trained professionals only. Is what I would say.
Every great athlete has a coach. Nobody decides I'm going to be a UFC fighter next week.
Right.
when you've been an accountant, right? Like you may want to get some training. You may want to work with a coach who's taken people there before. If you're going to climb Mount Everest, you get a Sherpa who's done it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Right. So, to that point, and that ordeal, as Michael's alluding to, what most often you're going to face is yourself. All of the limiting beliefs, all of the shadows, all of the fears, all of the not good enoughs, all of the shortcomings.
So a question I would ask men out there that we've asked our men is like, what's the belly of the beast moment for you? Again, we know that you won't necessarily know until you're there, but just from your current perspective, what is that deepest fear that you know you need to face to overcome to get to the other side in your life? What's that trauma that's been just living inside of you? What's that story or belief that has perpetuated in your life that if you could just break through that, things will be different? A really important question to start asking yourself so you have some expectancy of like, okay, I'm probably going to need to face this. And the reality is it's probably something even deeper than that. But as a place to start, like, what is that? What's that real deep-seated fear? I'm not worthy. I won't be loved. I'm going to die. Like, what is it? Right. What's that belly of the beast moment where it's like, this is what I'm going to have to face?
And if you need a little perspective, if you're thinking about like in business or in finance, as far as your personal wealth or your health or whatever, it's like, man, every time I get to this stage and then boom, something happens. Right. I get to this level and then sabotage or something goes wrong. And you may want to play victim and blame it on the circumstances. The only common denominator in all of those equations is you. Yeah. So what is that thing? What is the belief behind that? It's like when this happens, like, oh man, I knew it wasn't meant for me. I knew I wasn't good enough. That's the one. That's the one. That's the belief. That's the bullshit that you keep telling yourself that's holding you back. Absolutely. What is that story? That's what you got to face. And on the other side of that is freedom.
Right. The reward. Yeah. and just to reference my clock example again, if the call to adventure is 12 o'clock, the ordeal is 6 o'clock. right? So now begins the back half of the journey. Because once you've crossed over that threshold, Guardian, face that part of yourself or that part of your journey, there's a reward. You're given a gift. You're given a, like Luke, it's the Force, right? Like he's
Right.
given this power, and obviously with great power comes great responsibility. But now you're given that reward. You're handed the sword or the torch in your life to be the torch bearer moving forward, because now you've been given this gift on the other side of it, right? That's where we talk about the wound becoming the gift.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone through this whole process, and now it's like, okay, you know how you have this new skill set, this new awareness, this new way of looking at life. That's the reward, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the road back.
The road back, which is it's the journey home. It's to now start that process of bringing that gift home, which ultimately leads to the hardest part of the hero's journey.
Right.
You thought the ordeal was the hardest part.
Say, I don't want to spoil the plot. You're thinking, oh, it's the road back. The road back. I've got it all figured out. It's all done. Hero's journey's over.
Right.
Guess what, Sparky? Just beginning.
And it's like, and you'll probably be able to describe the scene better than I can, but in Star Wars, where they have to shoot the missile or whatever their gun into that one small part of the Death Star.
Air conditioning duct on the Death Star. Yeah,
right.
It's like, holy crap.
And it literally was the matter of life and death, right? Where your face, we call it, the resurrection, where you have, it's like the ultimate moment of, is this going to work or not? Right. Because now after you've gotten the reward, you have this new skill set, this new awareness. Now it's literally being tested again.
Well, right? I'll expand beyond the first film. If we look at the trilogy, I think the resurrection, right? Like the road back and the resurrection, those are the two next stages on the hero's journey. Well, for you to be resurrected, you have to be dead. So, I mean, the first ordeal, like it was still in The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke faces the version of Darth Vader in that tree of darkness, and when he slays him and discovers it was himself, it's like, oh, it's the darkness within me. So he conquered that. It's like, all right, cool, I'm a Jedi now. No, not so much. Then he actually has to fight Vader for real. And loses his damn hand in the process. And here's, I am your father. He's like, no. And like, it is on the death's doorstep. He almost died in that. That's the resurrection. Yeah. But from that, he was born anew, right? And
for some of us, it's a symbolic death, right?
Yeah.
In our life.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be actual
really die
death.
and come back. We haven't quite mastered that one yet, but but there is a symbolic death to the old version of you. And sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No. It's all right. It's we even in I think in the tale of Jesus, there's somewhat of the hero's journey, right?
I'm sure there is.
Even I look at, Michael Bisping was a UFC fighter who, from getting punched in the head so many times, lost his eyesight. And like they told him, you can't fight again. Like that was death for him. Guess what? He fought and he won against all odds. Phenomenal story. Phenomenal hero's journey. There's a documentary on Michael Bisping. I don't remember the name of it, but check it out. It's worthwhile.
Maybe those could be in the show notes. Do you have the name of that documentary?
I don't remember the name of it. I just remember watching it and I was like, wow. Right. Okay. Total respect for the guy. So yeah, then there's the resurrection, and from that, the final stage of the hero's journey is returning with the elixir. And the elixir, in the myth of the hero's journey, it's that magical potion that's going to heal the village, or it's the holy grail in the tale of King Arthur, whatever it may be. And often it's an awareness for us and our hero's journey of our lives. You have a new awareness. You have a wisdom that you didn't have before you begin this journey. And that's where the saying that it's not necessarily the journey, but who you become in the process that is the elixir.
Absolutely. Yeah. The elixir, that's the good stuff. That's the gift you get to bring. And again, elixir, it's like, what is that? Right. But
that's moonshine.
It's the moonshine. It's like Rocky being the voice for the ordinary man and showing the ordinary men that they can do something special too, right? And giving that gift. So it's not a literal gift per se, but it's a mindset, as you said. It's an awareness. It's showing people what's possible, right? It's like,
Right.
it's like going back to your hometown and sharing the fruits of your labor or your wealth. We talk about one of the men in our group who, is a high-end hairstylist who went back to his hometown of Amarillo after being in LA for years to bring that gift back to his hometown, to lift that town up, to bring what he learned to his community.
Right.
Right.
And it's not even about cutting or styling hair for him. It's about empowering other young barbers and would-be entrepreneurs with the knowledge and awareness and skill set they need to rise up. That's his mission. That's his elixir, is empowering others.
Yeah.
That's contribution.
I just hear you can do it too. That's what I keep hearing in my head. It's like you're embodying what's possible.
Yeah.
Right. And then the cycle begins again, and you're on a new hero's journey now with this new higher level of awareness, skill sets, and there's a new calling.
Yeah.
There's more. And maybe it's more challenging. Maybe it's to get to that next level in your relationship or business or whatever area of life it may be. Right. But it is a cycle that we need to acknowledge that, like you said earlier, it's not a one and done at all.
Right. And here's what's interesting as a perspective is we may achieve this new thing in our life. We may, reach this new level. And then there gets to be a point where it's just not that exciting anymore. It's just not that fulfilling anymore. It's like, oh man, I thought this was it. I thought this was everything. And now it's just not doing it for me. No. Don't be upset about that. That's when this new extraordinary world has become ordinary, which means there's a whole new level and adventure for you to have.
Yep.
Don't be upset about that. Recognize this is the cycle of life. These are the seasons. Everything in this world comes in seasons. It's cyclical. Yep. So if what
Sun
was
shall
once
rise
exciting,
again.
what was once exciting has now become ordinary and mundane. Good. That means there's a whole new level and a whole new adventure and a whole new hero's journey for you to take. And when you achieve that greatness, and man, it like life is on fire. It's amazing. It's incredible. One day, there'll be a next level, and a next level, and a next level. Because the moment we stop growing, we're dying.
Oh,
right? There's always another level. God willing. There's always another level. So rejoice in your growth. Rejoice in your challenges. Rejoice in the hardships that you face, because it is through that you achieve your greatness, right? And, just to wrap it up with another quote from Tony Robbins, I heard him say something once, said, your life can either be an example to others or a warning. I was like, damn. So what's it going to be, right? Do you choose average? Do you choose mundane? Do you choose not good enough or just good enough, even worse? Or do you choose a life of greatness? Do you choose to embrace the adventure? Do you choose to embrace the uncertainty, the challenge, the fear, and step into the truth of who you really are? And that is something that is available to every single one of us.
Love it. So to keep this episode under 50 minutes, this is a big topic, as we said at the beginning, and we'll probably spend other episodes diving into more nuanced parts of this hero's journey. Today was an overview, but to give you men out there just a few actionables, it's like, well, one, read the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. There's a documentary, Finding Joe, right, that was put out a number of years ago, which a lot of great interviews on there, going through the cycle and the journey itself. I mean, there's tons on the internet about the hero's journey, but start asking yourself the question, like, what's my calling? Like, what am I really here for? And start listening. And as you said, have discernment. Pay attention to the people that are showing up in your life that are offering guidance, support, mentorship, allyship, trying to teach you something. And don't be afraid to step into that unknown, to go all in on yourself and be willing to face the darkest, deepest, hardest parts of yourself, knowing that there's a reward on the other side. And the ultimate goal is to bring that home. Right. So what's that
Love
call
that.
to adventure? That's the
Love
question I'd be asking myself.
Yeah. And I would offer, I love that. In addition to that, like take an inventory of your life and assess where you are on your hero's journey. You may
Right.
still be stuck in the ordinary world going, man, I know I'm meant for more, but I don't know what it is. You may be like the guy we had the call with earlier today. He's on the path of entrepreneurship and creating an incredible company and mission. He's at the stage of test allies and enemies. And it's like he's already on the journey.
Right.
Knowing where you're at helps you to take the next step.
Oh, that's great. So get to know the pieces so you know where you're at and you know what to expect. And I always like to say, then when they come, you're like, oh, I knew you were coming. There you are. I didn't know you were going to look like that. Right.
Right.
But here you are. And then it's like, that's discernment.
Yeah.
In my view.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. And then
Well,
again, when you can welcome it instead of bemoan it or resent it, you're winning.
Agreed.
You're in a place of power.
I know we can go on and on about this, and we will in other episodes. I just, again, to you men out there, just dive deeper into this content. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and, get into this podcast. We have a lot of value to give here. Reach out to ignitetheking.com if you want to go further in the work and maybe come to an immersion or see what other programs we have going on. That's available to you out there, and we'll continue to share this wisdom with you on the podcast. So with that, have a beautiful day.
I want to, one more thing I want to say to every single one of you listening. You are a hero, especially you, the one who thinks you're not good enough. You're the one who thinks, oh, who am I? You're the one we need the most.
Right.
Rise up. Rise up. The world is waiting for the gifts you have to offer. Don't keep them waiting. You're enough. Let's go.
Have a beautiful day out there.